Chapter 1. The Bodyguard System. I don't know if I am that unlucky. It seems that this world is not meant for me. A young man muttered in a low voice. This young man possessed black hair, together with brown eyes. He possessed an athletic body. Although his muscles were not that much toned, but still, he looked impressive. He was currently wearing a black suit. His hair was well kempt, having shaved a buzz cut. He looked extremely clean in the suit that he was wearing, but he still possessed a domineering stance. At this moment, he was standing in front of a club. The club was not that big, but still, the number of people that were coming in and out of the club was quite high. This club was called Dynamic Nightclub and was located in Farah City. Farah City was quite prosperous, with many businessmen located in the city. But nevertheless, although it was a big city, it was only considered as a second-class city within the country. Leaving all of that behind, Jaden's life was quite horrible. He had lost his parents when he was only 15 years old. Then, the greedy relatives went ahead and grabbed all the wealth that his parents had accumulated. The matter of his parents dying in an accident was never investigated, no matter how many times he tried to push for it to be done so. In the end, it was simply concluded that the accident was caused by a drunk driver, something that was impossible considering that Jaden's father never drank alcohol. As for the matter of the wealth that concerned his family, being only 15 years old at that time, Jaden was not capable of defending the wealth. So, in the end, all of it was taken away, leaving him with only a few dollars. Without any other choice, Jaden was forced to drop out of school. In order to make sure that he survived, he looked for a job that he could do. In the end, any time that he managed to get a job, he could only do it for a single month before he was fired. Every time, the reason of him being fired was different from the last one, but it did not even make sense. And it was also due to those reasons that he was denied his salary for the entire month, or he was paid just a few dollars. Finally, after trying several times and surviving all this time, until he was at the age of 20, he had managed to find a job at this club. In fact, it had not been a month yet, it was only going to be a month after 3 days. All this time, Jaden had made sure he was extremely careful, making sure that he did not mess up anywhere. This way, he was not going to be fired, at least without being given some kind of compensation. But for some reason, Jaden could feel that he was going to lose the job soon. That was the feeling that he had always gotten the previous times after losing the job several times already. He had already ventured into different jobs, enabling him to acquire several skills. Although he was not a master in them, at least, it was just the basic skills of doing many things. Just as Jaden was thinking about his miserable past, suddenly, a convoy of sports cars arrived in front of the club. Jaden could not help but raise his brows a little. Although it was true that the club that he was working at was kind of popular, but it was not popular enough to be able to attract those rich kids. So, he was wondering what had actually led to this group of people that had arrived to come over. Although he was curious, he just maintained his position, outside of the entrance of the club. He looked towards the direction of the sports cars, and at this moment, several young people alighted. It was a group of about 12 people. Each and every one of them was wearing luxurious clothing and accessories. Although he was not sure about the price of the items that this group of people was currently equipped with, he could tell that just a single watch from one of them was capable of feeding him for several months. Looking at them, Jaden could not help but reminisce about his past. During the time that his parents were alive, they were wealthy, and he could be considered as a young master. But now, more than 5 years down the line, he had transformed into a broke young man. Deciding not to let the matter get into his head, Jaden decided to pay attention to this group of people. Nevertheless, he was pretty sure that he was not going to be able to interact with them anyway. Just as he thought like that, the group of young people walked past him. But then again, one of them stopped and looked at him with a scrutinizing gaze. Jaden was a little surprised. He had not expected that there was going to be a young master that was going to pay attention to a person like him. With the position that he held as a bouncer of the club, he was definitely considered amongst the low-level employees of the club. Jaden looked at the young man in front of him. This young man possessed medium-length blonde hair that touched his shoulders, green eyes that were looking at him scrutinizingly, and there was a small scar on his left cheek. This young man was of a height of about 171 centimeters, according to Jaden's estimation. His body was not that healthy, considering that Jaden could see that his skin was kind of pale. Just as Jaden was focused on scrutinizing the young man in front of him, the young man spoke with a hint of dissatisfaction in his voice. "Somehow, you look like someone I have seen before. It is just that I cannot remember clearly who it was. But nevertheless, do you want to be my dog? I promise that I will pay you better than what you are going to receive in this place," the young man stated as he looked at Jaden. Jaden could not help but frown. From the voice of the young man, he could clearly tell that this young man was contemptuous of him. As for the matter of him looking like someone else, was it not normal that people looked alike? Nevertheless, although his life was difficult, he was not interested in being a young master's dog. So, resolutely, he responded, "I'm sorry, but I'm not going to accept that. I am satisfied with what I am currently having." The young man, Lucas Smith, had not expected that Jaden was going to refuse the offer that he was giving. For a moment, he was dumbfounded. According to his experience, as long as he gave a person of Jaden's stature a chance like this, they would definitely latch onto it. Completely irritated by the fact that he was refused in front of his group of friends, Lucas did not even try to ask Jaden to reconsider the offer. He just looked at one of his bodyguards and said, "Get rid of him. I don't want to see him when I get out of this club." Immediately after saying those words, he followed the group of young people that had already entered into the club, but were still at the entrance, waiting for him. Jaden, on the other hand, was completely dumbfounded by the decision made by Lucas. What kind of logic was this? Just because he had refused, he was going to be killed? Jaden was not given a chance of thinking much, considering that 5 bodyguards immediately attacked him. They did not question the order that they had been given and simply followed the command. Jaden tried to resist, but he could not fight against 5 well-trained bodyguards. In the end, he was beaten terribly, with several wounds on his body. When the bodyguards realized that Jaden was about to die, they carried him and threw him into an alley. It was clear that they had left him there to die. Jaden laid down on the ground, feeling pain that was coursing through his entire body. He had never expected that he was going to die just like that. While Jaden was reminiscing on his past, a stray dog suddenly came over. Then, without hesitation, it bit onto his hand, the one that had already been broken, and a bone could even be seen. Jaden did not have the strength to resist the dog, considering that the beating that he had received was cruel. "I never thought that I was going to die from both the injuries and rabies. Well, it doesn't matter. If I get another chance, I will make sure that whoever it is that has ever wronged me, they would pay for everything that they have done," Jaden thought to himself. As his consciousness became blurry, Jaden could not help but feel reluctant to die. After all, he had not enjoyed his youth at all, and he had died unjustly. But just as Jaden was about to die, holographic screens suddenly appeared in front of him. Although he could not see clearly what had appeared in front of his vision, but the voice that rang in his head could not escape his consciousness that was about to fade away. "Congratulations on being chosen by the bodyguard system." Jaden's mind went blank for a moment as he tried to process what was going on. But before he could do so, another series of prompts appeared in front of him together with the mechanical voice.